Media. That's great. London is my home city, and I do love London, as a lot of other people do. And what I'd like to do today is just to share with you a few things about London and its culture today. And of course, if you have any questions, then you can ask in the chat box. Some of the things we're covering, we won't be able to cover everything. It's a very big topic. So what we'll be looking at today is Londoners and their city, fashion, a little bit about the fashion industry, music, books and films, and also, last but not least, drinking tea, which is another passion for British people, as I'm sure you know. Okay, and as I say, I'd be very happy to answer any questions later on. Now, as you can see at the top of this slide, it says, do you know? These are some questions that I'd like you to see if you can answer. Doesn't matter if you can't answer them, because all of these, you will find all the answers as you listen to this little talk that I'm going to be giving you. So, do you know the number of languages spoken, the largest age group of Londoners, any fashion designers, the biggest music venue, the quickest selling concert, and the biggest male and female musicians? Okay, welcome Vera. Vera has just joined us. And the other things you could also focus on during the talk, so you will have to listen carefully which books and or writers are connected to these places. So King's Cross Station, not far from where I am at the moment, Baker Street, very near Regent's University, and the Globe Theatre. And also finally, when is tea time? So maybe you know the answers to these questions. If you don't know, you will find the answers as we go along and listen to this presentation that I'm going to give you. Okay, thank you very much.
Can I just ask everyone to mute themselves, please?
Okay, that's great. Now, London, as any of you will know, maybe you live here, maybe you visited, it's a city of contrasts, and it has a very old history, but it also has a new side, and you will see the old and the new together. So in this slide here, you can see the Tower Bridge, which is the very famous bridge on the River Thames, which opens when the ships go through. Then in the background, you've got the tallest building in London, which is called the Shard. And old and new live happily together in London. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Traditional images of London. I'm sure all of you will be familiar with these different images. So you've got Big Ben, which is the clock on the River Thames by the Houses of Parliament. And the lady in there, of course, is Queen Elizabeth II, who is in her 90s now and still very, going strong. Then you've got the typical English food, fish and chips. Beneath that, you've got somebody drinking a cup of tea, and to the other side of the picture, you've got a British businessman in a bowler hat with an umbrella, which is the traditional clothes that people wear when they work in offices. But as I say, these are all very traditional images, and things have changed a lot over the last 10, 20 years. Contemporary London. Contemporary is how London is nowadays. London is the most cosmopolitan city in the world, even more cosmopolitan than New York, but very similar. And we do a census every 10 years. The government does a census, and there are 270 nationalities living in London, which is a huge number. And even more languages, 300 languages are spoken. I think just at Regent's, the students there speak over 150 languages. It's also quite a young city. The largest age group is the 30 to 34-year-olds. The UK has an aging population. It's getting older. But in London, that's a big age group, 30 to 34-year-olds. And in fact, 1 in 3 Londoners are 25 years old or younger. This is also true in other big cities, but outside of the big cities, usually the population, as I say, is aging. It's getting older as people live longer. Now, for 84% of Londoners, the cultural scene, they consider the cultural scene to be very important for the quality of life. Certainly in London, you can do anything you want, really, at any time of the day or night. If you want to experience things from all over the world or from London itself, you can. You're never, ever bored in London. And it's a very energetic, creative city. It's vibrant and it's unique because it's such a mixture, all these nationalities, all these different age groups, a lot of young people, and it's very open to ideas. So we'll have a little look at some of these now. It's a world centre for arts, for culture, for fashion, finance, also, of course, tourism, education, lots of other things. And we'll have a look at some of London's culture at the moment. Let's start off with fashion. London is a world centre for fashion, as I've said, and every year we have London Fashion Week. This year it took place in February. It was during lockdown, but it still went ahead with social distancing and everybody wearing masks. And of course, everything was online. Some of the designers who are famous are Stella McCartney, daughter, of course, to the very famous Paul McCartney, the singer. Vivienne Westwood is another famous one. Victoria Beckham, who used to be a singer in the Spice Girls. Paul Smith, Burberry. There are lots more. These are sort of the classic designers. But as I say, London is a big mixture. There's also a very big street style of fashion. And for young people, that's more what they know London for. So there are brands like Trapstar, Attica, Lazy Oaf, and lots of independent companies, and people wear all kinds of things. So here are some images of classic design. That's a Barber jacket and a Burberry scarf, and that's a dress designed by Victoria Beckham. So that's the more classic design. And then, of course, there is always street fashion. And really, in London, nobody cares what you wear. You can wear whatever you like. These are just some images of young people wearing different things. That's the rapper Dizzy Rascal, who is also from London. And beneath Dizzy Rascal, you can see the punks. Even though it's not so much a contemporary fashion, you can still see them in Camden Town. I think they're more there for the tourists, but nobody really pays any attention. Everyone just gets on with what they want to do. And the two girls on either side of the picture are wearing their own style of fashion. As I say, anything goes, and nobody really cares what you wear. But it's quite entertaining to look at. The music scene. I love music. London, it has got a very, very big music scene. And going back to when I was a child, there are more than 300 plus music venues, big and small ones, and also lots and lots of places like pubs and cafes where you can hear music in London, all over London, in the centre, in the suburbs. And it's great to listen to them. The O2 Arena is a massive music venue, and it was built for the millennium in the year 2000. So it was built for that, and it's now used for music as well as sports and other kinds of entertainment. The O2 Arena is the world's most popular venue, according to the number of people who go there. People who have played there include the Rolling Stones. They're very old now, but they're still popular in the UK, still performing live, even though they're in their 70s and still doing a great job. The Spice Girls, as maybe some of you will remember from the 1990s, around then, Rihanna and Beyonce have all appeared in the O2 Arena. And the very fastest sales from the O2 Centre, the Spice Girls had a concert and it sold out in 38 seconds. So you had to be very quick if you wanted to see them. They were very, very big in 2007. And even though it's a very big venue, it sold out quickly. And this is what it looks like. It's a beautiful building. It's on the banks of the River Thames near Greenwich. On the left, you can see it outside lit up at night. So you can see it from a long way. You can see it all over the city. And then on the right, you can see it's pretty big inside. So if you want to do a concert there, you'll have hundreds and thousands, well, thousands of fans anyway, who are watching you. So it has a great atmosphere if you like big venues, but there are also small ones. And outdoor music is extremely important as well, particularly in the summer, obviously not in the winter. We have the biggest carnival in Europe in Notting Hill. Now, traditionally, carnival happens around Easter, but the Notting Hill Carnival happens in August, at the end of August. We have a bank holiday where we have a 3-day weekend. So we have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And this is when the Notting Hill Carnival takes place. As I say, it's the largest in Europe, and it was started in the 1960s by London's Afro-Caribbean community. We had a very big group of people who came from former colonies, places like Jamaica, to make their home in London after the war. And in order to celebrate their culture, they started the Notting Hill Carnival. It's extremely popular now with Londoners of all ages and also with tourists. This year it's not going ahead because of the pandemic, but it will be there again next year, I'm sure. Usually around 1 million people attend over that weekend, which is quite a lot of people, as I'm sure you will appreciate. It's very crowded, but it's full of life and very lively. And as well as the Notting Hill Carnival, we have festivals in most of the parks, including Hyde Park. Lovebox is a very big festival, 3 days long. Wireless is another. And you can, whichever kind of music, whichever style of music you like, you can see it in the parks, including classical music for those who are not so keen on contemporary music, but there are all kinds of things for everyone. We don't mind too much if the weather rains, but we hope it doesn't. This is a picture from the Notting Hill Carnival. As you can see, a couple of pictures. The people who attend the carnival and the people who do the performances there spend about a year preparing. So they make beautiful costumes and fantastic music. Afro-Caribbean music is one of the sounds you can hear at the carnival. It's very, very colourful. I would certainly recommend it if you come to London. I try to go most years if I can. And here's a picture of a festival, Lovebox Festival, which happens in the park. This one, I think, was in Victoria Park, but it changes different parks. Everyone has a great time. It's very relaxed, and people just go listen to the music, dance, and have fun in these festivals. And some of the top names that we've got in British music today: Dua Lipa, who I expect you've heard of, particularly the younger members. She's a fantastic performer. She's the #1 female performer in Britain. She was born in London. She grew up partly in London, partly in Kosovo, where her parents come from. She studied in the local school in North London. And as I'm sure you will know, she's a big star. And we'll just hear a little bit of her song to see if you recognize it and to see if you like it.
If you don't wanna see me, did a full 180, crazy, thinking about the way I was. Did the heartbreak change me? Maybe, but look at where I ended up. I'm all good already, so moved on. It's scary. I'm not where you left me at all. So if you don't wanna see me dancing with somebody, if you wanna believe it and you think it's not me, don't.
Okay, so that was the best female artist. I really like her music. I hope you like it as well. I can see Anita seems to like it. That's great. Thank you very much, Anita. And the two top men in the UK today are Ed Sheeran, who is a world famous pop star, and Stormzy, who is a British rap artist of a particular kind. The type of music he sings is urban music from London and the big cities in the UK, and it's called, the British version of this rap music from urban centres is called grime. So that's the name of this style of music. I like it a lot, and I hope you do. Ed Sheeran and Stormzy are both good friends, and they did this song together, and it's all about London. You can see the different styles. Ed Sheeran doesn't actually come from London, he comes from Suffolk, but he spent a lot of time and started his career in London. So have a listen to this, see if you like it. I hope you do.
Jet plane headed up to the sky, spread wings and the clouds getting high. We ain't hit a rave in a while. Shout to the first. So take me back to London. I know girls might never get twanged. Booze that ain't never been planned. No booze that were never in gangs. Where I'm from, chat shit get banged. Where I'm from, chat shit, they're the 12-gauge trip. Yeah, sick, have a fix in my hand. I don't mix with the glitz and the glam. All these stupid pricks on the gram. I don't do online beef or niche grand beef. I'm way too G'd up. Beef for granny. I bought an AP to help me time keep my shooter ride. Deep he moves when I speed my shooter ride. The shooter guy. Leave you wet like you scuba dive. You were younger then and now we're unified. South London boys get you crucified. I'm gone. It's that time. Big Mike and Teddy are on grind. I wanna try new things. They just want me to sing because nobody thinks I write rhymes. But now I'm back in the biz and my guy. Give me a packet of crisps in my pint. I hit my friends up, go straight to the pub because I haven't been home in time. Yes, but that's my fault. Gross $500 million on the Dubai tour. Yes, I ain't kidding, what would I lie for? But now I'm back on the track with Big Michael. He said to me, never get off your high horse and never let him take your crown. I've been away for a while, traveled a million miles, but I'm heading back to London town. Right now. Jet plane headed up to the sky. Spread wings and clouds getting high. We ain't hit a rave in a while. So take me back to London. Face high, middle night, sitting low. Sweat.
Okay, well, I hope you like that. I really like their music. It's not to everyone's taste. I usually say with music that you can learn a lot of English. You can learn some very bad slang from that song, but it's a great song, I think. And some of you I know will like books and literature. I also love books and literature, and there are lots of writers and books that are set in London and who come from London. One of course, the most famous playwright in the UK, Shakespeare. Again, he wasn't born in London, but he lived in London and wrote a lot of his work in London in the from 1585 to 1612. That's when he was in London. And then after that, we had Charles Dickens, very famous writer, who wrote about Victorian London and gave us a fantastic picture of what the city was like then. That was in the 1830s to 70s. So again, that's a long time ago, but they are still popular now, both Shakespeare and Charles Dickens, and they're constantly being updated. Sherlock Holmes. I expect a lot of you will have heard of Sherlock Holmes. He was a very famous detective, and the books about Sherlock Holmes are set in the Victorian and Edwardian era. So that's the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th centuries. And then finally, I'm sure most of you will have heard of Harry Potter. And the books about Harry Potter were written between 1997 and 2007. So those of you who grew up at that time will probably be very familiar. Now, Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. The Globe Theatre was the original theatre where Shakespeare's plays were performed, and it's on the south bank of the River Thames as well. The original theatre, and here are some pictures of the outside on the right, and on the left you can see the inside of the theatre. It was originally built in 1599, and Shakespeare's plays were performed here. Then in 1997, the actor and director Sam Wanamaker decided to rebuild it because Shakespeare, as I say, is still popular. So he rebuilt it in the style of the original theatre. So you can see how plays were performed in those days. And people didn't sit down, it was all open air and they stood up. So it was a different kind of experience, but you can still go there today to see plays performed as they would have been performed in Shakespeare's day. So if you come to London, that's certainly something that you might like to do. It's an open air theatre, as I say. Sherlock Holmes, I'm sure a lot of you will have heard of him. He was a fictional detective, so in a story, and the writer was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sherlock Holmes also had an assistant who told the stories about what he did, and his assistant was called Dr. Johnson. The stories are all set again around the turn of the century up to the First World War. He lived at 221 Baker Street, which is now Sherlock Holmes Museum. Again, you can go there. He is the most portrayed character in film and TV history. So that's why most people around the world will have heard of him. And the most recent actor is Benedict Cumberbatch. And in fact, he's so well known that many people think he was a real person, which of course he wasn't, but you know, the stories are very believable, so a lot of people believe that he actually existed. And here are some pictures. In the picture on the left, you can see the original Sherlock Holmes. And then on the right, you can see the updated version. And London is very good at that. It takes something old, but makes it new. So Sherlock Holmes is set in modern London, but using the same kind of stories for Sherlock. And here is a picture of the museum, the outside and the inside. And even though he didn't live there really because he didn't exist, it shows exactly how a house would have been in the time when he was meant to live. It's quite a beautiful house, actually. Looks a bit like my grandparents' house looked, but it's very interesting to have a look inside. So another thing you can do if you come to London. And we're going to have a little clip now from the modern Sherlock Holmes.
Who are you? What do you do?
What do you think?
I say private detective.
When the police are out of their depth, they consult me.
Got anything?
This is a hunting ground, right here in the heart of the city. Why didn't I think of it? Because you're an idiot.
This is my friend, John Watson.
Friend?
Colleague. Hey, you get your kicks, don't you? You risk your life to prove you're clever.
Shut up. I'm saying with thinking. It's annoying.
You like the funny cases, don't you? The surprising ones.
Obviously.
The game, Mrs. Hudson, is on. Time to play.
I am I'm Sherlock Holmes, and the address is 221B Baker Street.
Sherlock, Sunday at 9 on BBC One.
This is a very popular series from British television. And with Sherlock Holmes, you can see lots of bits of London in the films about him. So it's quite nice. In that one, you saw the National Gallery in Trafalgar Square. Another very, very famous book that is also a film is Harry Potter. Platform 9 3/4 for the Hogwarts Express is at King's Cross Station. And in fact, it didn't really exist as a platform, but they've made a sign for platform 9 3/4. And tourists love to queue up there. You can have your photograph taken with the shopping trolley, which is how Harry Potter gets to Hogwarts on the Hogwarts Express. And the other picture is just next door to King's Cross, St Pancras Renaissance Hotel. And this is the entrance to King's Cross Station in the film, and it features in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Other venues that are used in the Harry Potter films are London City Hall. This is where the local government for London is centred, and it features in the film Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And then Leadenhall Market, which is a beautiful old building in the east of London. And this is used for the filming of Diagon Alley in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Now, that's a little bit about films. A talk about London wouldn't be complete without mentioning afternoon tea. It's tea time now. I have my tea here with me to drink. Tea was introduced into the UK in around the 1880s by the Duchess of Bedford. So she was a very aristocratic, very rich woman. And tea time was always, at that time, fixed at around 4 p.m. The reason it was that time was because the upper classes, people like the Duchess of Bedford, had lunch quite early, around midday, and then dinner at 8 o'clock. So they were a little bit hungry by 4 p.m. So they just devised a little meal, a small meal, to have together with a cup of tea at around 4 p.m. And this meal includes a cup of tea, some little sandwiches, usually cut into triangles with the crusts cut off, and some cakes, because they like to have something sweet as well then. And it's very interesting, everything in England has a connection to class, whether you're upper class, middle class, or working class. And so even nowadays, a lot of people who come from working class families will call the main meal tea. And this is because traditionally, workers in factories would have tea as their main meal after work at around 6:30. And the middle and upper classes still to this day call their main meal in the evening either dinner or supper. So, I mean, that's just a general rule. You can really call it whatever you like, but there are still some distinctions like that. Nowadays, of course, it is still the favourite hot drink in the UK. And Britons drink 100 million cups a day, which is a lot of tea, as I'm sure you will agree. They don't just drink it at 4 o'clock. You can drink tea at any time. Usually the first thing people do when they get to work is to have a cup of tea. And if somebody has a problem, you will offer them a cup of tea. And when they arrive at your house, that's what you offer as well. Usually in the UK, people drink it with milk, and some people add sugar. But most people don't have it black. Herbal tea nowadays in particular are also very popular. People drink, usually now, we use tea bags in a mug. This is a mug that I'm drinking in, and I use a tea bag. A teapot, it takes a long time to make tea in a teapot. So 96% of tea is drunk in a mug with a tea bag. Coffee drinking, people love coffee here as well, and it's also rising. So we drink 70 million cups a day, but still not as many cups of coffee as tea, as you would expect in England. Nowadays, afternoon tea with sandwiches and cakes is usually just kept for special occasions, for birthdays or anniversaries. So Britons don't drink it that often and have a little meal with it. They usually just drink tea throughout the day. But as I say, for birthdays and special occasions, and also tourists love to have afternoon tea. And there are lots and lots of places in London and all over the UK where you can get afternoon tea with the cakes and the sandwiches, etc. And here are some pictures of afternoon tea. This is using a very elegant tea service, and it looks as though someone is having champagne here as well. So maybe that was somebody's birthday treat. And the Ritz is a very posh hotel where you can go for afternoon tea. That's one of the most traditional places. So that's a bit about London. Let's see how much you could understand from the talk and see if you got the answers to the questions we looked at the beginning. So the first question, the number of languages spoken, 300. So as I'm sure you'll agree, a lot. The largest age group, 30 to 40 years old, as we heard earlier on. Fashion designers, there are many, Vivienne Westwood, Victoria Beckham, lots of others. Biggest music venue is the O2 Centre. The quickest selling concert, the Spice Girls, 38 seconds, it's sold out in 2007. Male and female musicians, Ed Sheeran, Stormzy and Dua Lipa. And then the books or writers connected to these places, as I'm sure you will know now. Harry Potter's connected to King's Cross Station. That's how he goes to the Hogwarts Express. Sherlock Holmes is synonymous with Baker Street. And the Globe Theatre, of course, was where Shakespeare's plays were performed. Tea time is 4 p.m. That's the official time, or any time at all, really. Okay, well now and the number of cups drunk every day are 100 million. I'm going to continue with my tea. I hope you will also be having a cup of tea now. And please let me know if you have any questions. I'll have a look and see if you have any questions. Just email us if you do have any questions. We'd like to say thank you very much for attending. I hope you've heard something interesting about London. And it would be lovely if you could come and visit London at some point. We really hope you can join us and see all these places for yourself. Thank you very much, Ridette.
Thank you so much, Jean. Thank you so much. I didn't know that we drink that much tea and coffee, so that's
It's incredible.
Quite a lot, isn't it? Well, I drink more than 4 a day, so it's it definitely contributes. Thank you so much. The webinar was really very interesting, and I love to hear about Sherlock, especially because I actually pass the museum every day when I go to work. When I go to Regent, so it's amazing. Let us know if you have any questions, guys.
Yeah, and thank you very much for your comments. It's been lovely meeting you, if only online today. Thanks so much, all of you. Hope to see you in London soon.
Thank you so much. I will be sending or sharing the presentation and also the recording with you.